Hey everyone, happy new year here on the Off the Mic Sports Network. So what do I want to start talking about in a bunch of content that's going to be dumped here throughout the weekend because a lot's happened since the turn of the new year. The college football playoff, the quarterfinals have been played, and that's really where I want to start. And I want to start with big picture. One of the biggest takeaways of the first two rounds of this playoff. You could honestly say a lot of different things. The top seeds got screwed, and believe me, I will talk about that. Here's the number one thing that you need to know. Through two rounds, there's one SEC team left in this thing. It's Texas, and Texas was not in the SEC 6 months ago. That's all that you need to know. The SEC spent the better part of multiple weeks and then even in the aftermath of Indiana getting destroyed and SMU getting destroyed, saying, yeah, you know what, our teams would have performed better. You want to know what happened? Alabama lost to Michigan. Ohio State lost to Michigan. Everybody gave Ohio State shit for that because it's a rivalry. But Alabama lost to Michigan for the second time in 2024 because they lost in the Rose Bowl. And they only scored 13 points. South Carolina, the other team that was on the bubble, they lost to Illinois out of the Big Ten. So there's that. And then we get to January 1st. And Texas, a former Big 12 team that just moved to the SEC, didn't win their conference championship, basically beat nobody. Really didn't beat anybody this year. And they're facing Arizona State. They're up 24-8 with 7 minutes to go. And then all of a sudden, Cam's got to be when Arizona State come back, make this insane comeback. And it looks like they're on the precipice after multiple missed field goals in regulation by Texas. They're on the precipice on 4th and 13 in the Peach Bowl to win the game, despite being a double-digit underdog and being the technically higher-seeded team. And Texas hits a 4th and 13. Credit to Quinn Ewers. It was a zero blitz. He changed the protection. He made a great throw to Matthew Golden, and then Texas wins in double overtime. So Texas wins. Meanwhile, the other team from the SEC that made this playoff, Tennessee, they were just destroyed by Ohio State. And it's okay, Tennessee fans. Oregon, the number one team in the country, got destroyed by Ohio State. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not a good look for the SEC. So then you get to January 2nd on Thursday afternoon, because obviously thoughts and prayers to everybody who was impacted in any way, shape, or form by the tragedy in New Orleans on New Year's Eve into New Year's Day overnight. It's just a heinous event. So thoughts and prayers to everybody involved at that. But then in terms of what happened in this game, Notre Dame and Georgia, the standard bearer, the SEC champion, got really pushed around by Notre Dame. They got pushed around, losing 23-10. I understand that Georgia had a backup quarterback. That's not an excuse. Georgia's one of the most talented teams in all of America. So here we are, sitting here. I'm recording this January 2nd. I don't know when this will come out. It's to be determined. But you look at it, the whole reason this playoff expanded was to get more SEC teams in. They got 3 in. The last remaining team from the SEC that remains in this playoff is Texas. And frankly, if you talk to some people, Texas shouldn't even be in this thing right now because Arizona State could have beaten them. A lot of people think they didn't beat anybody to begin with, but hey, they are Texas. They have a big name to it, and it creates a compelling matchup with Ohio State in Arlington, which will be a fascinating game in a week's time. But really the point of this video that I need to hammer home, and that SEC homers and marks and dipshits who were getting in my mentions when I was calling out Lane Kiffin a couple of weeks ago when he was barking about how SMU and Indiana couldn't compete. Look what happened in the last 4 days. Alabama, the team that everybody wanted to get in, they lost. South Carolina, the team that, frankly, I wouldn't have minded South Carolina getting in, they lost. Here's everything that you need to know. The SEC was overrated this year. And I'm starting to think their stranglehold on being the best conference in college football is they're starting to loosen the grip on being the best conference, because the Big Ten has a chance to potentially have an all Big Ten final, Ohio State and Penn State, because those are on the table. Ohio State looks like the best team in America. Penn State hasn't really had much resistance so far, but Penn State's playing good football right now. And that'll be an interesting matchup with Notre Dame. But the SEC, 100% we overrated. And all of this whining and complaining about how the SEC didn't get treated fairly and how they would have done better, their teams that were on the bubble would have done better than some of the fringe teams that made this playoff, that's a load of horseshit. This conference was not good. This conference was average this year. Georgia, your champion, has now has 3 losses. I'm not even sure that Carson Beck would have saved them against Notre Dame. I had confidence. Notre Dame is a really good football team, okay? And I think they may win the national title. When I saw Notre Dame's path to potentially getting to Georgia, I thought that could be an avenue for success. And then Texas was really at the top of this conference the whole year. They play nobody. They're talented. They don't play like it a lot of the time. There's no reason, and I like Arizona State. They played their hearts out, and they frankly deserved to win that game. There's no reason up 24-8 that you lose that you're in position to lose that game and needing a 4th and 13 to rescue you, to save your season and save the game. Texas, I don't have a whole lot of confidence. Vegas has already got Ohio State as a decent favorite. I think I saw 3, 4, 5 points, depending on where you look. It'll be interesting to see how that is. Even though Texas is going to be kind of a de facto home game, but Ohio State fans will travel well to that game. But again, all you need to know about this playoff, with everything that has been smeared in front of your face from the ESPN propaganda that's gone out because they own the rights to the SEC, they own the rights to this playoff, is that the SEC is not very good. It's not. It's not. Because almost every single one of the key teams that they wanted to force into this playoff have flamed out in bowl season or in the playoff. Tennessee got destroyed by Ohio State. Georgia got pushed around by Notre Dame. And then Texas was getting pushed around by Arizona State near the end of the game and should have lost. And they weren't even in this conference 6 months ago. So I don't know what more you guys need me to say. If you're an SEC fanboy, you really have no leg. You have no leg to stand on. I'm sorry. It's just, and Texas. I don't think Texas is winning the championship this year. If Ohio State plays the way that they've played, Ohio State may win by double digits, and Ohio State's still better. So Texas does have some level of an advantage with it being in Arlington. I still don't think this Texas team is very good. They haven't played anybody, and the games that they've played, they've been either pushed around by a Georgia, and they didn't finish, or Arizona State, a game that they should have run away with, almost blew that. So, yeah, that's like all this. There's a whole conversation, and when we expanded this thing, was about the SEC and how they were going to run roughshod over college football, and the exact opposite has happened in this playoff. And it's very, very possible that we get 2 teams from the Midwest and nobody from the South at all. Nobody from the South, because Notre Dame's independent. They're a Midwestern team. You've got Penn State and Ohio State. There's a real possibility that we are looking on January 20th and there is no SEC representation in this playoff in the final. And that is just it. It's a bad look. And then it's also a bad look when you get all of these complainers after the first round of the playoffs saying that their team should have been in when they couldn't even win their bowl games. So that's my first takeaway. We'll have a lot more takeaways on this, on the second round, the quarterfinal round of the CFP. We'll also look ahead to what's to come on January 9th and 10th in the Orange Bowl and the Cotton Bowl before we get to January 20th and the national championship game in Atlanta. So that'll be great. Very exciting time here on the channel. Again, Happy New Year. Thanks to all who have supported this channel. We got over 200 subscribers before the turn of the new year. I had 5 or 6 at the start of July. That is a remarkable, whether you agree with me or not, I appreciate the interaction because that's what this is about. I am very passionate, as you can tell, and I love doing this. And I love the interaction, like hearing it from other corners of the world. And even though SEC fans are probably not going to be happy with what I had to say, I believe in it. I would love to interact with you. Get at me on Twitter at OffTheMic28 or OT Mike Sports. We can have hopefully a civil conversation. We'll see. But anyway, I will talk to you guys real soon. Thanks again. Bye-bye.